Hey everybody, Dana Stover here with the Magic of Somatic Money, and the story card that I pulled this week to tell you a story, I lined it up with this, pulled this card to go with it, and what we're going to be talking about here is spiritual discernment. This is a story I'll tell in just a moment, and the card that came along with it, it's the Temptress card out of the Gaia deck, and the way that I read this card is basically like, hey, maybe the information that you're getting in right now or the people that you're hanging out with telling you certain things, you might want to have a little bit more discernment with that. And I know for a lot of you in the spiritual community, myself included, and I did this for quite some time, is like, spiritual community is like, boundaries are a little bit more loosey-goosey, there's a lot more flow going on, things are happening, and when I first drank the spiritual Kool-Aid, man, I went right into the deep end. I was drinking this Kool-Aid and that I did the whole thing. And this was in Durango, Colorado, heart of the Southwest, perfect place to do it. I was all in with the witch stuff and the shaman stuff and the channeling and the psychic and the metaphysical shows and the spiritual community in Durango is just amazing. Like, that was one of the places I really truly found my home. So I'm in the middle of doing all of this, and my awakening began 2001 around 9/11, and by the time I landed in Durango, I went through life changes. By the time I landed in Durango, it was right around 2006, and the spiritual community was just really pulsing. Great people, lovely scene, really wonderful things going on. And so I dove into the deep end of the pool, was doing great stuff, having a great time, like awakening and doing all the wonderful things that you do at the front end of your spiritual awakening, right? And then a few years in, I started running up against, I seemed to start kind of running up against a wall, and I wasn't sure what this wall was until I arrived at this certain significant event. And not gonna name names because we don't want to do that, but it was somewhere around springtime, probably it had to have been like 2008 probably 2009, and this really big spiritual person came to town. Somebody in our community knew a spiritual bigwig in California and got this person to come out, and there was a movie and there was a book release. Like, it was a really big thing. It was a huge thing, especially for a little burg like Durango, Colorado. And yeah, it's a stone's throw from Sedona and Santa Fe. So, it's all in Glenwood Springs. It's all in, not Glenwood, Pagosa Springs. It's all in really good mix right there. So, it made sense why this person came, and it was a really big to-do for our community. And so, yes, of course I was involved with that. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to be a part of it. And I ordered the book. I got the book. Like, this person came in, of course I had to get the book and read the book. And I got the book, bought the book, got it at the event, had it in my hand. There was all the, I went to the movie and talked with people, did all this stuff. And then at the end of the thing, I, had my purse and I had my book in the bag, and I trot back to my car and feeling all bubbly and good about everything. And I got into my car and got into the driver's seat and put all my stuff down, and I'm like, I got to take a look at this book before I start driving down the road. And so I fish the book out of the bag, and I open up the book. It was a hardback book. Opened up the book, and the binding and the pages completely came out of the cover, and there I was holding the cover and the content. And I had this moment of like, it was a moment of revelation. I had this moment of like, oh, something's out of kilter here. Because, along that point along my path, I was picking up that thing about there are no accidents. And when something happens, you need to pay attention to what the universe is telling you. So there I am sitting in my car, sitting in my emotional vehicle, just finished up that event with all those wonderful people that's very excited about everything, and I'm holding the cover in one hand and the pages, still in binding, in the other. And I just start laughing because I started stitching a few pieces together. Because as much fun as it was, and as much fun as it was to be there when I was sitting there in the event, watching the movie, watching and hearing what people were saying in this thing, some of it didn't sit well with me. Some of it wasn't resonating. Like the words were happening on the screen and something else was going on in my body, and something was telling me like something wasn't quite right for me. Now, is a spiritual leader right for other people? Sure, why not? But something was off for me. Something was not right for me. And so by the time I got back to my car and the bubbliness of everything was settling down, I was beginning to feel that weird feeling in my stomach of like something wasn't quite right. And then I fished this book out of the bag, and it comes apart in two pieces. That's when I started laughing. That's when I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to what my inner self is telling me about the spiritual leader and the spiritual leader's messaging. And from that point forward, I started paying a lot closer attention to, to me, this was the universe's, I think the universe had been nudging me, and it had gone from like ding to a nudge, and to have the book come apart in my hands, that was kind of like a little bit stronger message. And so I kind of knew that if I kept down this path, pulling my wool over my own eyes about spiritual community and not having discernment, I was probably going to get 2x4'd somewhere. I could kind of, like, there was a feeling of that in the air. And so to me, this was the universe getting in front of me going, cautionary tale, yes, it's fun to drink all the Kool-Aid, and it's fun to be all bubbly with it, and it's fun to like learn about all the bells and the whistles, but it was kind of like, honey, honey, you need to start paying closer attention to who you're hanging out with, what's going on, what things are being said, what's going on with your energy field, what spirit team is in your energy field. There was definitely a feeling of like discernment, discernment, discernment. And, you know, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are certain people, there are certain spiritual leaders or certain spiritual pundits for certain people, other certain spiritual people, along their path at certain times. And I have found this to be true. There have been certain times that certain spiritual leaders have really spoken to me and have really learned a lot and healed a lot and gotten through, and then the vibration of it kind of died down. And so, you know, the reason I'm not naming names is because this person might have really spoken to someone else at that event and really gotten through to them and really helped them. And that's what's important. To me, that's what's important. However, if you are on the other side of the coin where you're trying to force yourself to make something happen spiritually because everybody else seems to be going along with the ride and it seems to be working for them, but it's not working for you, you need to pay attention to that. And that's the discernment piece. And so that's the story that I want to leave you with is like, whatever's going on in the air today, and whoever's watching this, there is a feeling of, yes, it is okay to be discerning along your spiritual path as far as who you're paying attention to, who you're listening to, what you are reading, who you're hanging out with, what messages are going on, and what is working right for you. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, your core resonance and who you are as a being is the most important thing first. And paying attention to that is going to serve you along the way. And just because something's working for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else, or vice versa. And we need to honor that. Make sure you like, comment, follow, DM me, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.